This podcast is powered by Hype Girl. Hype Girl was born out of our passion and love for inspiring amazing women just like you. There is no superpower quite like being a woman, so we have made it our mission to create spaces, events, and tables where there is always room for one more, and all are always welcome. Come find out more about it at hypegirl.us.
Public speaking is extremely important because in this day and age, we're spending more time looking at our phones instead of looking at one another. And so I know lots of people are afraid of public speaking as adults. We teach kids from the age of 5 years old that they don't need to be afraid. I think Freedom Readers is a wonderful opportunity for young people to learn about careers through the tutors that sit next to them. So they have an opportunity to figure out what it means to be a doctor or a lawyer or a spiritual leader, because they get to sit next to those people and ask them questions and learn firsthand. And I think that that's another thing that sets Freedom Readers apart. Where else can you find a young person who lives in a low-income community sitting next to a professional that can let them know that if you see it, you can be it?
You know you did a good job, so say you did a good job.
I did a good job.
Good job, good job.
Welcome to the Do It Ugly podcast. Here are your hosts, Stacey, Lyon, and Jenny King.
All right, we are so excited. We're here for another episode of the Do It Ugly podcast with myself. I'm your host, Jenny King, and I have my amazing co-host,
Stacey Lyon.
Yes, and we are so excited to be here. And Stacey, I'm very, very excited for our guest today.
I'm so excited that she is here. She is so busy, and we were able to get on her calendar not once, but twice in March.
I mean,
we're very lucky.
I don't know what that says about us, but I'm feeling pretty excited about it.
I don't know. I feel pretty good.
I do say so myself. So let's introduce her.
We have with us today the amazing Dr. Tracy Bailey.
Thank you for coming on.
I am so glad to be here. And
Are you though?
Oh, absolutely.
I think she's looking at us like we're crazy and wondering what she got herself into.
No, I just want you to know you were on my calendar twice in March because you are so special to me.
Oh, thank you.
I think what you do for our community is so wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're two girls who are just crazy enough to believe that we can get women on the same page to cheer for each other so that we can really make generational shifts, because I know when we become different as women, the children that we impact become different, their conversations become different, and who they get to ultimately be is different. So we're just crazy enough to believe that we can do that, Dr. Bailey.
And I believe with you too. Everybody in this room believes right now.
Amen. So one of the things that I love about you, Dr. Bailey, is you are one of those women that when you meet you for the first time, there is just this feeling that you are unbelievably wise. And
Absolutely.
there's not a conversation that I've ever had with you where I didn't feel like I could immediately trust every word out of your mouth. And that is not something that happens with every person that you meet. Where do you think that sort of wise nature and that spirit in you, where does that come from?
Well, first of all, thank you for saying that. And I remember the first time we met, Jenny. I remember when we sat and talked with one another. It was such a wonderful conversation. And I walked away feeling very energized and inspired because you have such a positive energy about you that just radiates. But if I do have any of that wisdom that you're talking about, it has to come from my parents. Okay. I am the youngest of 7 children.
Ooh.
There are about 10 years between me and my 6 other brothers and sisters. And my mother has told me on multiple occasions that she thinks I was born old. So I'm not sure what that means.
Yeah.
But when I was a child, I spent a lot of time with adults. And I guess I just kind of soaked up some of their energy.
Yeah, I get that. I
can feel you have an old soul, that you have, you're very wise. You've been here before. You've done this before.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's something to be said. I always believe that God places people in the positions where they're meant to be because you're going to have some sort of pointed, specific, intentional impact. And so I always feel that when I'm in the room with you, you know, there are people that you meet. I believe that every woman has purpose. Every woman has something incredible that she's going to do. But I think there are certain people that are, when you meet them, you can feel them walking in their calling because they always bring something to the table. So what is it that you are into this year? What are you really passionate about? What are you doing right now that that you can give us an insight on what's happening in the world of Dr. Tracy Bailey?
Well, I can tell you that I've come across a couple of podcasts and documentaries about the way that we are teaching reading in our schools.
Ooh, okay.
That have really kind of gotten me thinking. They were very enlightening.
Okay.
And they just kind of revealed to me how money becomes involved in our educational system, and how
Really?
sometimes school districts start to buy curricula that don't necessarily reflect the science of how we know the brain works, but publishing companies have very big promotional budgets. And so
Okay.
I've just really been thinking through a lot of how we teach kids to read, why we've been seeing such a gap between what we know they can do and what they are doing,
Okay.
and what we can do in the after school space to kind of address some of that.
I love that. And tell our listeners, so you are the creator of an incredible organization that is dedicated to the literacy of, children and in this space. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. So I started the Freedom Readers After School and Summer Literacy Program in 2010. This year in May, we'll be celebrating 13 years.
Oh, wow.
And I did that because I really felt like kids needed a space where they could practice what they know about reading. They needed a space where they could have someone sit with them once a week and give them their undivided attention. And they also needed a space where they could practice public speaking. So we do all of that and give away free books once a week to, right now, about 100 kids.
That's amazing. You're also providing them a safe space, right, where they can learn in that environment, because if you're a child who does struggle with reading, sometimes you don't want to read out loud in front of the entire class, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want to be able to have that one-on-one attention, and that can really make an impact on them and the fact that they continue learning to read or they just give up.
Mm-hmm. And what I'm finding out is that when a child sits next to an adult that can help them crack the code of a word, pronounce words correctly, understand the sounds of the letters, then that's the thing that takes them far, far, far.
And I didn't know that you had been in existence for 13 years. That's pretty impressive. So having come a full, little over a decade with these kids that were starting with you in the very beginning, what have you seen? What's been the adult story or near teen story of where you've seen it come to fruition, whatever that seed was that was planted in Freedom Readers?
Well, I can tell you about a site that just started in Georgetown, and the people there are so excited that they go out to meet the bus every time the bus is dropping the kids off. They give the kids a round of applause, a standing ovation, cheer for them, and invite them into the room. And what they have told me is that they feel like having been a part of a kid's evolution has been probably more powerful for them than it has been for the child.
Yeah,
I love that. That is something someone with such a servant heart would say, right?
Mm-hmm.
That when you give to others, it's really a gift to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I just love to think about, though, when we're always thinking about generational impact, just really thinking back 13 years, do you know what happened to the children who were in that first iteration of the program when it started?
I haven't been able to follow all of them, but sometimes I'll see a child in the grocery store or in the Walmart, or a couple of years ago, one reached out to us and said, I'm about to go on my college journey. Would someone just sit down and talk with me about what it's like to go to college, or help me think through my choices here?
Yeah.
And that was just an amazing opportunity to be a part of that.
And do you think without Freedom Readers, that same child would have been talking about college?
That's hard for me to say. I don't want to take full credit for, the magnificent work that parents do at home that happens in schools. This child ended up being invited to attend the early college high school. So I think that really did help her get on the right path. But her mom does say that when she was 8 or 9 years old, if she hadn't hooked into Freedom Readers, then maybe there would have been a different type of road that she would have walked.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Have you been able to take any of those best practices from Freedom Readers and incorporate them into the Boys and Girls Club?
that I love about my work at the Boys and Girls Club is that I get to invite some of the Freedom Readers tutors into the Boys and Girls Club to work with the kids there.
Yeah.
So it's a great overlap.
So we know that we always love talking about the amazing Dr. Tracy Bailey and all of the cool things that you do in terms of projects where you serve the community. But we want to know more about the woman, because I think we're also fascinated by who it is behind the curtain of Oz, as it were, that makes all the magic happen. But who is the woman? We want to get to know the beautiful woman that you are. So tell us, when you're not doing all these amazing things, what are you super passionate about?
Yeah, like I said earlier, I love to be active. And I am going to be running in a 5K. And tomorrow morning, I'll be running the Bridge to Bridge run in Georgetown. Yeah. And I love to spend time with my family. We love to just hang out and find new restaurants and take selfies and post them on our Facebook pages. I love to read. I just finished a book today called Life on Delay, Making Peace with Stuttering. And it was such a phenomenal listen. I listened to this book on Audible. It's only 7 hours, and so every time I jumped in the car, I just kind of listened to it there. I highly recommend that book.
Okay, and say the name of it one more time.
Life on Delay.
And who's the author?
John Hendrickson.
Okay.
Yes.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you listen to podcasts?
I do listen to podcasts.
What are some of your favorites?
So right now, while I'm walking in the morning or exercising, I'm listening to a new podcast that I found. It's actually 3 seasons old, but it's called Black Girl Songbook.
Okay.
And they started out by analyzing Whitney Houston's Super Bowl performance of the Star Spangled Banner.
Okay.
And so every episode is about a different black girl singer. I learned on that podcast that a song I heard you singing earlier, Stacey.
Oh, gosh.
I Keep on Falling in Love by Alicia Keys.
Did I sing that?
I think so. I heard you referring to that
the
song.
voice of an angel, too.
Absolutely. It was heavenly. But they let me know that song premiered or debuted like 20 years ago. And I thought that was totally insane. Like, I feel like I heard that song for the first time last week.
Right, yeah.
So,
oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
I love that. And this is such a beautiful time, and it's such a fun thing to see all these amazing Black women having their space and being able to shine and do that Black girl magic thing. I love that hashtag. What do you think the impact of everything that we're seeing right now and Black women and Black girls being able to just step out in their space and feel confident shining? What does that feel like to you to watch that kind of unfolding now?
Oh, it feels phenomenal to me. It feels so good to know that my daughter is in an environment where she can just really soar and shine, and where she can find her voice and do great things. And I look at a lot of the young girls that I work with, and it just inspires me to know that because society seems to be more welcoming of who they are, even and not telling them that they're too big for the space, that you have to shrink.
Yeah.
You can be who you are. You can be bold. You can be loud. You can just be you. Yes. And so I love that.
It is. It's so amazing. And I feel like that messaging is coming across for all women right now too, which is so good, because there was a time, especially, are you from the South?
Yes, I'm from Georgetown, South Carolina.
Woo! Okay, well, I'm an Horry County girl, original, and Miss Stacey, well, she's a Yankee, but it's okay. We love her. We've adopted her.
Maryland is south of the Mason-Dixon line, so I don't identify as a Yankee. However,
but we love you anyway.
we're a neutral state.
But I think the journey has been the same for a lot of us, and that is that when we were young girls, we were taught to be quiet and be small and just sort of find your place and be courteous. And I think there is now, especially as a mother, and both of you can probably resonate with this, there's this real desire to give our girls the space to go be who they are. And we don't have to put the tether on them anymore. Like, we're going to teach you to be kind and respectful and all the obvious things, but we don't have to put that tether on, that you can be a little bolder. And that feels good to watch them like do that vicariously through them, I think.
Yeah.
I like that. I feel like just the words that are being used around young girls, young women, seem to be more positive. For example, I can remember when I was young, I was always told I was bossy, right? But now I feel like we're saying to girls that they have a leadership quality about themselves.
It is. It's early onset leadership.
Correct.
That's what I've always said about Sophie.
Exactly. And I like that the words we're using around young girls seem to be more positive that way. Of course, not always, and we still have room to grow, but I feel like there's been a change in that direction.
I agree. I think one of the things that the women's community that we're building, that you came in, were a part of our day, part of that purpose of that community is that we want to create a space where we can try to eliminate the mean girl stuff that we see. And there is, in my opinion, you can correct me if you both think I'm wrong, but I believe it's actually kind of getting worse because once social media inset, there was a space where older women in my demo, I'm mid-40s now, so there was a space where they started to see young girls excel quicker because being online gives you faster access to certain types of success. They're seeing a lot more money flowing through the hands. They're seeing the beauty standards change. There's a lot more provocative nature and sometimes in young women. And I think a lot of women in my age group and maybe even a little older are looking at that and feeling like either they got left out or left behind. And so there's a judgment that's happening. So you hear a lot of critique because of that lack of validation. And so it's creating then the conversations from the moms, the girls are hearing it, and then it's perpetuating into the schools. Do you see that with your girls, like in terms of them feeling being on the receiving end of that, not receiving end, but just seeing the mean girl stuff happen in school?
Well, Jenny, when you were talking about that, that just really resonated with me. Since I'm so comfortable with the two of you, I'll make a confession.
Please.
That this isn't really the confession, but at the end of last year, I turned 50.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, but the confession is, this is the confession, because I was raised by a mom that came from a certain era, I found myself trying to raise my daughter in that same way. And because she was in a different space and things are changing, I really had to have a heart-to-heart talk with myself about, you said they don't have to be tethered, right? Yeah. And so I had to really take a step back and begin to celebrate how marvelous she was in her own right and make space for her voice in a way that my voice may not have been received. So I definitely feel like that whole generational kind of, rubbing up against one another, that the shifting, it takes a lot of self-examination, self-awareness from the women who are in an older generation, a more seasoned generation, to, just recognize how great it is to be your full self. Yeah.
What you said as well. And one of them that struck me was how the definition of success has changed through the onset of social media. And how from when I'm also in my early 50s. So from when we were kids to now, how the definition has changed and how people, they measure themselves. And I don't know if it's because there's such access to information or what people see as maybe authentic online, where they can compare themselves to other people because people are only putting out the good, right, on social media.
Yeah.
They're not putting out the ugly, they're putting out the good. So then you can't help but compare yourself to what you see from other people.
Back in
the old day, you didn't compare yourself as much, perhaps, because it wasn't in your face 24/7.
Correct. I think that's the piece, right? And so I don't know about your girls and Stacey. I've got my daughter. Okay. I've got my daughter on the brain.
She's pretty amazing.
She's pretty wicked cool, I won't lie. But Stacey is the mother of two, and I think that's the piece for me that's so tough because I'm like you. I had that same sort of inner dialogue because I am from a military family, very traditional Christian family, and I've been finding that I've had to pray a lot and spend a lot of time working on how to create a clip of that tether, because I was tethering Sophie for a long time because I was trying to put her through traditional roles. But from the social media aspect, the comparison I think is so big because it wasn't in our faces when we were kids. Like you could only judge yourself by what was in your immediate sphere. You didn't have access to the whole world showing you this version of what they think your life should look like so that you can spend all day staring at it. So I think that's really interesting. Do you find, this may be more connected to your work at the Boys and Girls Club, but do you find that you guys are spending a lot of time talking about confidence or stepping into who you are? Are you doing a lot of that to combat what social media is creating for kids?
Yeah, I think we do a pretty good amount of that. I just wanted to mention also that I heard a quote recently that kind of set me free when it comes to social media and looking at other people's lives.
Here for it.
And it's pretty simple. It just says that comparison is the thief of joy.
And it is.
So I want to live a joyful life.
Amen.
And I think that everybody is supposed to be walking in their own path, and so what is right or appropriate for a person at that time in their life may not be right or appropriate for me.
Right.
And I always try to keep in mind that if God is blessing somebody down the street, he's in my neighborhood. So I must be next.
I like that. I like that. And I also love that speaks to the fact that you don't have to lose because somebody else is being blessed.
Exactly.
Like there is room. Like God is so big.
Yeah.
God is so big, and what he can do in your life and what he can do in somebody else. I mean, there's no limits on that. So the amount of blessing that we can all be receiving at the same time. And so I love that you said that because there is space for everyone to have their blessing.
Absolutely. That means that I'm next in line.
But I love that you said he's in the neighborhood.
Oh, yeah.
I
He's down the
love
street.
that.
He's
I
in my
love that.
neighborhood. He's definitely in my neighborhood. But one of the things that I noticed about social media when I started working at the Boys and Girls Club is that kids would bring their devices into that space and I think begin to use it in a way that was not necessarily in line with the philosophy that I had for the organization. And so we made it a cell phone free zone.
Okay.
And so whenever we see cell phones there at the Boys and Girls Club, we take them. And if kids need to make contact with someone and it's an emergency, they call them from my office. And that's how that works, because we found that there were chat groups, there were text chains, there was Snapchat, there was TikToks and all kinds of things going on that were just not productive and just causing a lot of strife, especially amongst the young girls at our club. So that was one of the things that we did, remove them from social media while they were in the room. And we do have to have conversations about how they need to conduct themselves even outside of that building. And they need, if they're not going to be using it for something positive, they need to think about not using it at all.
Yeah.
What age do you serve through
At the Boys and Girls Club, the members are 1st through 12th grade.
Okay, so a long way.
A long way.
A lot of teenagers.
Oh, yeah.
In the club. And
Yeah.
so I love that they're having some time without a device just in front of their nose, right?
Yeah.
And a chance to just experience human interaction.
Yeah, no doubt.
Well, there's so many offerings at the Boys and Girls Club. There's a culinary club there. There's a choir there. There's a fitness club. There's a wellness club where they meditate sometimes, There's so many offerings. And there's a homework help right as soon as they walk through the door. Okay. So there's no time or room or space to be on a device.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so important. And I love that they get that. Is it daily? Is that
Yes.
every single day? So they come right after school and
Yes.
spend time with you.
Yes.
And are you at the Boys and Girls Club all day long? Is that where your office is? You're located? That's where you're based out of daily?
So I have an office at the Boys and Girls Club, and there is an office for Freedom Readers. I mostly am located at the Boys and Girls Club office.
Okay. So I think the next thing I need to ask you is the burning question for all of us. And I know you've been married for quite some time. How long have you been married now?
We will celebrate our 25th anniversary in August.
You kids do not look old enough to have been married 25 years, but I celebrate you, darling. So tell me, in the midst of conquering the world, how do we keep the romance alive? Like, how does that happen? Oh, yeah, you didn't know we were digging in. We're going there, girl.
Okay.
Because we're getting to know you, girl.
As we should.
Yes.
As we should.
Some of us need inspiration, right?
Yeah.
I mean, my husband and I have been together almost 20 years, not married 20, but together 20. And you and Mike have been together how long?
I don't even know. Is that true? We'll be married 19 years in May.
Yeah. Okay, beautiful. So all around very close. But yeah, I mean, because you guys have how many kids?
2.
2, yeah.
Yeah, we have a son and a daughter.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So yeah, how do you keep marriage healthy and alive and doing all the things in the midst of conquering the world?
Right. And it's a good question for our relationship right now, because currently my husband is teaching a course at Columbia University in New York City. And so I am here, but I think that one of the things that we do is we date.
That.
We definitely
Oh my gosh, what does
we
a date with
date.
Tracy Bailey look like?
But yeah, so what is that? Is that weekly? Is that monthly? Like, what
Well-
does that look like? Obviously, now because he's in New York, right?
Right.
Okay.
So sometimes we, we can squeeze in a weekend here and there, and sometimes it'll be, 2 weeks, and then, spring break is coming up. I'll spend the week in New York City, and we will go have a nice dinner. We might go see a movie. We may just walk around and see what we can see. But we, I have to say, we enjoy being together, and it doesn't really matter what we're doing. If I can quote Prince, he says, "I don't care, pretty baby, just take me with you."
Why did that sound so sexy?
No. I was going to say, I can kind of tell, and it makes me smile, just how much you are still in love and how proud
absolutely.
you are of him.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Posts
incredible.
you make on Facebook about him, and I just think, that's just relationship goals right there.
Yeah.
I love that.
It is, and the reason I bring it up is because our endeavor is to inspire women, and I think one of the greatest questions that we get is, how do you do it all? And even at the event, we talked about having it all, and how in some people's opinions you can't have it all. There are certain ways to do different things at different times, but I think the relationship piece suffers a lot as a woman, especially when you're someone who's driven. And for a lot of women, their spouses aren't as driven, so trying to find that dynamic. So I think being encouraged that there is a way to make space for it.
We were just talking earlier that why is it when your work life is slamming, you feel like you're failing at home, and vice versa. If you are on point as a wife and a mother, then your work life suffers. Like,
It does. It
how
really.
do you keep all the balls in the air?
I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet. I'm 41 this March, and I still have no idea what I'm doing. But maybe.
Help us, a wise one.
Right.
How do we do this?
But I love that you still date. My husband and I had started doing a date night, but honestly, it's one of those things I'll make a full confession here since we're doing confessions today. We have not been great about honoring that. And we have a date night coming up tomorrow night. My daughter is going to be away at a friend's, and so we're going to have a first date night in probably months. Do you guys schedule it on the calendar, or is it just something that is there a specific day? Like, how do you make it happen? How do you know it's going to happen?
Well, I will say that it is hard. It's not necessarily the easiest thing when you have two people who have very busy schedules.
Yeah.
And I think when our kids were maybe like 3 and 5, we took a parenting class at our church. And Miss Marlene Starr, who taught that class, said that you have to make time to date. Not only do you have to do that, but you've got to get away for a weekend at least like once a month.
Wow.
And so now that our kids are 18 and 21, it is not as hard for us to to get away. And so we do.
I love that.
We absolutely do. We get away together. We try to, find, even if we just go to Travelers Rest and drive and ride our bikes, or just find a space to go walk by the ocean. We like to go see new things together.
Well, you know what? That's so funny too. I love that you say that, because I think when you're young, your definition of date is like, he comes and picks you up. It's got to be a big orchestration. There's got to be flowers, and it's a whole thing. But I love that dates and the little things, it can just be little tiny moments. It doesn't have to be a big production for it to matter. And I think that's a good walk away.
Absolutely. I'm glad to hear you say that, because if sitting on the couch and watching Netflix counts as a date, then I'm looking good.
Why wouldn't it? Okay, well, that's a great follow-up question. So, are you a Netflix kind of girl?
I am.
So tell us, when you're Netflixing, what are you Netflixing?
Well, this isn't on Netflix, but I cannot wait to go watch the next season of Ted Lasso, because I'm a huge Ted Lasso fan, and that's on Apple TV Plus.
Just started, one episode in.
Never heard of it.
So this is the 3rd season of Ted Lasso, and if you watch one episode, you will be hooked. You will not want to get up off your couch for several days, so be careful.
What genre is this?
Ted Lasso is all about light, love, and positivity. And every scene in Ted Lasso is a leadership lesson, I believe. Oh, you would love this.
Okay.
Oh,
I'm in
yeah.
3rd season episode.
Okay, I'm going to check it out.
Okay.
Okay.
And it's amazing. And I'm always just inspired by his leadership style. And I never guess what he's going to say or what he's going to do.
And it's so funny and so authentic. And
Okay.
yeah, I guess you're so. I just finished a series on Amazon Prime.
Okay.
And it is called Swarm. And let me tell you a little bit about Swarm.
Please.
It is from Donald Glover,
Oh, I like Donald Glover.
who also gave us Atlanta.
Okay.
But this new series is a little darker. And I will tell you that one of the stars of that series is my niece, Chloe Bailey. So to sit there and watch her in this series do such a phenomenal job, talk about spaces for women. You know, I'm just watching Chloe and her sister do magnificent things
so cool.
and being inspired by it every day. I mean, I have to tell everybody to watch it, but
Yes.
I think you'll enjoy it.
Okay, so it's Chloe Bailey, and we're going to find her in Swarm on Amazon Prime.
Yes.
And it's a must-see, ladies. Go check that one out.
Well, I mean, I will say there's some violence in it. So, you know, if you don't like that kind of thing, then it may not be for you. But,
Watch it after the kids are in bed.
yeah,
Okay, it's a grown-up show.
it is, definitely.
Well, we are so grateful for you coming and joining us, and it's been so incredible to learn not only so much about what you do, but some fun things about who you are. So in thinking about the ladies that might be listening, what's one thing you can leave them with to just inspire them, empower them? What's a message that's just on your heart today?
Well, I think that I believe like the two of you do, because I think I've maybe heard both of you say this at different times, that everybody was born for a reason and everyone has a purpose. And it is so incredibly critical right now in this day that we're in this time,
Yes.
for women to be able to step forward and embrace that purpose and to do that with boldness and courage and to encourage other women to do the same thing. Our voices are needed, our actions are needed. And so we just have to do the work of figuring out why we're here and then just go ahead and start running down that road.
One last question for me. What can we do to help you at Freedom Readers and or Boys and Girls Club? What are your needs? How can we get involved and help you?
Well, in both of those spaces, it would be great to have more volunteers because there are always young people who are looking for someone to connect with them, to listen to them, to make a space for them, to amplify their voice.
Love that.
And so there's a website for Freedom Readers, freedomreaders.org, where you can fill out a volunteer application, or you can go to the Boys and Girls Club website at bgclubsgs.org.
Okay.
And you can contact us there. Boys and Girls Club is celebrating 25 years this year.
That's incredible.
So we've got a great fundraising campaign going. So if you'd like to make a donation, that would be fantastic.
Well, ladies, thank you for joining us around the table with Do It Ugly. As always, it's our pleasure, and we hope that you will remember how incredible you are and that you do have a place in this world and that you also have ladies behind you who are cheering you on, even if you don't know it. And we love you, and we can't wait to see you next episode.
Thank you so much for being with us today, and keep doing it ugly, ladies.
That's right.
Just keep moving forward.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Bailey.
Thank you for having me. It was great.
Yeah.